Hi guys, it's Magenta here, and today I'm going to be reading a new story I've been writing. This excuse me. If you guys are hearing any noise in the background, I am so sorry. Someone's trying to fix up the car. Or a car. I don't know. Anyways, I'm sorry about the background noise, and I'm sorry for my words mixing up real badly. But anyways, back on the topic. Today I'm going to be reading a new story I've been writing lately. I wrote this during school, so I figured this would be a very good idea. But before we started, I would like to read the disclaimers and the copyrights. So please bear with me. Oh, you know what? I should probably tell you the title first. This story is called A Doll's Groom. It's a Mikey Pie story for you all Mikey Pie fans. You know, Michelangelo, ex-Pinkie Pie. For all you Mikey Pie shippers out there. Anyways, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I do not own them. They belong to the Mirage Studios, and My Little Pony belongs to Hasbro. So, now for this. This story was inspired by the three stories, Bride of the Lindorm King, Groom of Errors, by autistic writer, and the true story of Annabelle the Doll. In case you guys don't know Annabelle the Doll, she's a Raggedy Ann possessed doll. Go ahead and look her up if you want. Anyways, those are the inspirations, and I want to thank the owners of those stories for inspiring me. And actually, I want to thank this person who made My Little Pony Bride of Discord. It was also one of the main reasons. But the actual reason was Groom of Errors, a gender bend of the story. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Let's get started with the story. A Doll's Groom, Chapter 1, The Discovery. It was a fresh new night in New York City, and it was patrol night for the Turtles. The night continued to shine with its twinkling stars, despite the lights of the buildings, and the moon continued to rain its light down upon the large city. The 6 turtles jumped from roof to roof with quiet silence as their eyes searched down below for any sign of trouble. So far, nothing. There was nothing below that was stirring trouble, no sound below to be heard. And that silence was agitating one certain turtle in the group. His lime green skin glistened in the moonlight, with his brown gear and white bandages on his wrists and feet. His short orange mask was being blown by the coolness of the wind as his speed picked up, and bright blue eyes that shined like the stars above gazed downwards at his feet. However, his frown was the most unusual spot on his face there was about his happy-go-lucky self. He gripped his nunchucks and his 2 3-fingered green hands as he remained silent. His sparkling blue eyes started to grow dimmer as he continued to rush with the others. Unlike the others, he had never made even the slightest peep of sound. This caught the attention of the leader of the group. His ocean blue eyes noticed the slightly dim baby blue eyes of his brother. "Mikey, you okay, little bro?" he asked worriedly. He was expecting for his younger brother to simply smile back at him and tell him that he's all right. Instead, however, Mikey shut his eyes tightly and bolted right out of the group, running towards in another direction. The leader stopped in his spot from disbelief, causing the others to stop as well. Leo, just leave him alone. He's useless. He's useless anyway. The leader of the group, Leo, snapped his gaze towards one of his brothers who wore a red mask with the tails worn out and torn like the pages of an old book that had been rotting over the last few years. His expression was annoyance and disgust before it switched to a hateful one. Why don't you lay off of him, Raph? And what you said last night? After what you said last night, he snapped, his own anger frosted in his sentence. Raph's expression turned into anger from the combat. You know it's true, fearless leader. He's nothing but a hold-up to the group, he snarled. And besides, I'm sure he's off crying his eyes out as usual. Well, maybe if you were heartless and rude to him, maybe he wouldn't be crying his eyes out. While the two turtles were bickering to one another, one of the others, who wore a purple mask, snuck off to follow Mikey. The other two turtles stayed behind, doing their best to hold back Raph and Leo from murdering each other. For 5 straight minutes, Mikey had ran across roof after roof before he stopped in an alleyway to catch a breather. His eyes were watering with tears. He put his nunchucks in their holders on his sides and sighed shakily, remembering those words from the other night. Raph had said something that really hurt him to the point that his happy-go-lucky self had completely shut off. He could still hear those awful words in his mind, and the more they repeated, the more his heart shattered. He could have sworn he could have heard his heart crack and shatter into pieces like the sound of tons of glass being shattered in one blow. One word had caused Mikey to shatter. When that word replayed one last time, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Bursting into tears, yet he still did his best to not make a peep so he wouldn't be heard. He didn't want to draw any attention from humans nor his siblings so they could find him. Why can't I be good enough? All I want to do is bring joy and smiles to my bros and sis, he thought to himself in sadness. Why did I have to be the worst teammate? Why did I have to be the worst brother? Why did I have to be the worst ninja? Why did I have to be a liability? That one word, he thought, was enough to make more tears stream down his face, soaking his mask. Mikey's quiet sobs were so quiet, nobody or nothing could hear them. Or so he thought. Come on, Mikey, you're no liability, the orange-masked turtle convinced. You just have to prove to them. Maybe seeing April could lighten things up a bit. When he thought of the suggestion, he smiled a bit. A smile that was enough to make those sore thoughts and inner pain go away. With the matter settled, he stood up and dusted himself. April, here I come, he said casually. He prepared to leave, when he suddenly stopped in his tracks. His eyes noticed something in a garbage can in the farthest corner in the alleyway. His baby blue eyes were transfixed on something poking out of the trash lid. It looked pink? Whatever it was, it intrigued Mikey to take a look inside to find out. His curiosity overcame his suggestion of seeing April and his matters settled. Quietly walking over, his green hand gripped the lid, and with a quick lift, the lid was off before it slipped and crash-landed on a nearby box. Mikey was surprised by the sight inside. Its poor pink coat was smudged with dirt and other garbage liquid inside. Her hot pink and curly, bouncy mane and tail were spiky and a tangled mess with some rocks edged into them. Her 3 balloons cutie mark was covered with mud. The saddest part of her was her blue cerulean eyes. They looked so sad, and they seemed to look pleadingly. The sight of this doll was enough to make Mikey tear her up a bit, and a sympathetic look washed over his face. With gentleness, he slipped his hands under the doll and picked her up like a baby. He cradled her close to him, like he was hugging her, carefully not intending to hurt her when he saw some cuts on her body and legs. Luckily, there were no cuts on her face. His smile grew back on his face, and he petted her tangled mane with his hand. "You're coming home with me. I'll take good care of you." His words were calm, gentle, and kind. Carefully hugging the doll close to him, he started to leave the alleyway. No, with her as he carried her like a baby in his lime-green, muscular arms. "Mikey, wait!" The sound of one voice had caught Mikey off guard. The young turtle turned around just in time to see one of his brothers land close to the garbage dumpster. Unlike Raph and Leo, this one seemed taller than them, and his mask was purple. His skin was light like Mikey's skin, but it was slightly darker, and his eyes were reddish-brown. His purple mask was lighter than a purple plum, and his teeth had a small gap. On his shell was a very long bow staff that was somewhat and 5 feet long. He approached Mikey worriedly, but as soon as he took his first step, Mikey's smile had completely faded back into a frown. "What is it, Donnie?" he asked nervously. Donnie's expression switched to worry when he picked up the nervousness in Mikey's voice. When he walked towards him, when he was close enough, he placed his hand on his younger brother's shoulder, which caused him to flinch, and that was when his eyes noticed the pink doll in his brother's arms. He was surprised to see it, but he didn't show any disgust. Instead, sympathy overcame his eyes, and his heart felt a sting at the sight of her cuts and dirty smudges. He reached for her, only for Mikey to pull away and hug the plushie closer to him, being careful not to harm her. His older brother smiled gently and reached for her. "It's okay, Mikey. I'm not going to throw it away." His words were gentle and soft, with a sliver of comfort in them. "We can take it home, fix her, and clean her up." Mikey was uncertain if he should accept his brother's words, especially when he knows he's trying to bring him back to the others. He didn't want to face Raph again, not after the argument last night. But if he was going to keep the doll, he would have to get it cleaned up and fixed. With no other words, he turned into his brother and nodded while relaxing his hold on his new doll. Donnie smiled and took his brother's hand in his own, then led him out of the alleyway, jumping back on to the roof before jumping onto another. Mikey held the doll close to his plastron as he jumped with Donnie. Unaware of the two blue eyes were staring